So yesterday we talked about statistical data and how you can tell whether a question is statistical or not. So basically, if you ask a question where there can be different types of answers, it's statistical. If you ask a question where everyone's going to say the same exact thing, then it's non-statistical. Today we're going to learn about mean and outliers. Mean is something that's really good for you guys to learn because it's how you can calculate your average. So a mean is the average of a set of data. To find the mean or the average, you add all of the data and then you divide the answer that you get by how much data you added. This is how you would actually get your final, like your average for your classes. So you take all of your test scores or your grades and you add them all together and then you divide by how many you added, and that's your average. So this is how you can find your average for all of your classes if you keep track of your grades. And this is also why if you're missing an assignment, it goes in as a 0 and that kills your average because you're still counting it as a number when you're dividing by the total. So let's try the example for this one. It says find the mean. So we're going to find the average for this. So what you do is you add all your numbers together. And here's the way that I do it. You don't have to do it this way, but I kind of do this way because it helps me a little bit. So I add things that I can add quickly in my head. So I know 17 plus 13 is 30. So I'm going to add those. I know 16 plus 4 is 20. And I know 15 is just 15. And now I can add these really quickly in my head. So 30 plus 20 is 50. 50 plus 15 is 65. So my total that I get when I add all of those numbers is 65. So you take the number that you get and you divide it by how many numbers you added. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. So 65 divided by 5 is going to be 13. So I'm going to subtract here. I get 1, bring down the 5. 5 goes into 15 3 times. Okay, so the answer for this would be 15. So the average of that data. Okay, outliers are numbers in the data that are much higher or lower than the rest of the data. And this changes your average. So an outlier that is way smaller than the majority of the data is going to lower the average or the mean. Think if you're getting all A's on your tests and then you get an F, that F brings down your average because it's much lower than the rest of your grades. Likewise, if you have an outlier that's much higher than the rest of the data, it's going to raise your mean. Think if you get all B's and then you get an A+, that A+ is going to help raise your average. So for this one down here, I want to see if we could just name what the outlier is and how would it affect the mean. So let's look at all these numbers. We have 76, 78, 77, 67, 68, 70, 71, 72, 95, 72, 68, and 70. I would say the one that's way different than all the rest is 95. And because it's much higher than all of the rest of them, it would raise the mean. So we're going to try some of these.